the second part of our English. Today we are going to be looking at describing the same setting, but we're going to be looking at similes and alliteration today. So if I just show you my screen again. Okay, so it is the same picture as yesterday. It's a picture of Neverland. Now, today, like I said, we're looking at similes and alliteration. So we've covered both of these things before in lessons. So again, I've labelled the nouns that I can see in the picture, the same ones as yesterday. And what we're going to do first is look at some alliteration for these nouns. So I've done a few examples here. Sparkling sun. Remember, alliteration is when two words start with the same letter. So sparkling sun, we've got S and S. Then I haven't done one for rainbow, so I've left that for you to do. So you need to think of a word to describe the rainbow beginning with an R. Then I've done marvellous mountains, so MM. And then for waterfall, I haven't used an adjective, I've used a verb. Whooshing waterfall, so it's WW. So you can put an adjective or a verb in front of the noun as long as it starts with the same letter. Then we've got sailing ship. Now I haven't done anything for the sea, the trees or the flowers, so you need to think of some alliteration for flowers. So you need a word to describe the flowers beginning with F, a word to describe the trees beginning with T, a word to describe the sea beginning with an S. Now, it's completely up to you whether you want it to be an adjective or a verb, but remember it must start with the same letter as the word that you're looking at. Now, can we also remember that this is a positive setting, like I said yesterday? So it needs to have positive adjectives and verbs so that you end up describing it as a happy place and not as a scary place. So you can pause the video in a minute and write down some alliteration for these words. You can steal the ones I've done as well, but make sure you write them down because you're going to need them in a minute. Okay, so the second part to today's lesson is looking at similes. Now remember, a simile compares one thing to another using like or as. So the weather, for example, I've chosen to describe the sun in a simile. So I've said the sun sparkled through the clouds like treasure. So I'm comparing the way the sun sparkles to how treasure sparkles. For mountains, I put the mountains towered over the water like giants. So again, I'm comparing the size of the mountains, so how they're towering above everything, to how giants tower above everything. And then for waterfall, I put the water flow down as fast as, and then you need to think of something else that goes fast to compare it to. Remember when we've done similes before, try to make sure that they make sense, that you're not comparing something to something else that has no relevance. And then we've got the sea. The sea was as blue as, and you need to think of something else that's blue. The flowers were as colourful as, and you need to think of something that's colourful. Now, I haven't done one for trees or for the ship, so you need to think of your own ideas for that. Also, if you've got other ideas for the other nouns, that's fine. You can use your own ideas. These are just some ideas that I've come up with. When you're doing similes, you need to remember that it's not just saying the mountains were like giants. You need to say how they are the same as giants. Again, I wouldn't just say the sun was like treasure. How was the sun like treasure? So I've said it sparkled like treasure. So it's really important to say how one thing is the same as something else. Don't just say, you know, the sea is the same as this, or the sea is the same as something else. How is it the same as? So I've chosen to say the sea was as blue as something else. The flowers were as colourful as something else. So like I said, use my ideas, but also come up with some of your own, because I'm sure you've got some great ideas. Remember to use like or as well. So again, in a bit, I would stop the video and you can copy my similes down, but also come up with some of your own. Right, once you've done that, you're going to use these ideas and put them into sentences. So I have done a couple of examples here. So I've got a whooshing waterfall fell down the marvellous mountains. Now, again, I haven't just come up with these. These are putting the ideas together that I already came up with. So whooshing waterfalls, WW, was my alliteration from one of the previous slides. and I put it fell down the marvellous mountains. So I've used alliteration again in this sentence by saying marvellous mountains. Then in the next sentence, I've decided to talk about the mountains. I've used a simile and alliteration in this sentence. So I've said the mountains towered like giants over the serene sea. So I've compared the mountains towering to giants. So there's my simile. And then I've also said they were doing it over the serene sea. Now, serene just means calm. It's another word for calm, but I've used SS. So I've used alliteration. Now, what I'd like you to do is use your ideas that you've come up with yourselves for the similes and alliteration and create some of your own sentences. Now, you can put sentences with just alliteration in, you can put sentences with just similes in, you can put sentences with alliteration and similes in. Just try and use all your ideas and create some fantastic sentences. You can write these down on paper first if you want, but then you must go on to your purple mash and go on to write and put it on there. Now, I know some of you struggled a little bit with that yesterday. So just to make it very clear, when you go on to write, it's just a blank Word document. You need to type in the sentences. Now, I think some of you were having problems because when you were typing, it was just going across one whole line and it wasn't going on to the next line like it normally would on a computer. What you need to do is when you've written your sentence, if you press the big enter button, it's the big button on your keypad with an arrow on, if you press that, it will go on to the next line for you to write your sentence. So what I'd like is each sentence on a different line. So make sure you press the enter button. Now, when you finish your sentences, I'd like, again, the same as I asked for yesterday, I want 6 sentences to do with different parts of the picture. Remember, it's alliteration and similes that we're looking for today. When you've finished, you obviously need to save it, but a lot of you were saving it but then not handing it in. You need to press hand in, because if you don't press the hand in button, what happens is on your teacher's screen, it comes up that you've opened your purple mash, but it's a blank page and the teachers can't see any of your work that you've done. And that's a real shame if you're spending ages and putting a lot of effort in writing these fantastic sentences, but then your teachers can't see them. So after you've saved it, you must press the hand in button. Okay, please make sure you do that because it's going to really benefit you later. And obviously you want your teachers to mark your work and have a look at those fantastic sentences you're doing. So remember, save and hand in. Okay, good luck with this today. If there's any problems, you know that you can message us on the blog.